Alright, you guys, this is going to be a really quick video on how to read your natal birth chart. Now, there are a lot of places you could go online to get one of these things. I prefer alab.com, that's ALABE.com, and it produces a chart like this, which is what we're going to use to break this down. So the first thing you're going to need to know your birthday. You're going to need to know the place you were born and the time you were born at. If you don't have the time you were born, just put in noon. If you know you were born in the early morning, put like 3 or 4. If you know the evening, put like 7 or 8. So once you get a natal chart and you want to interpret it, you got to learn the chart structure. This outer ring right here, these are the signs of the zodiac, from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all the way through Pisces. The inside of the ring, right here, these are the planets. This down at the bottom is the key that goes with, tells you which planet and which sign is which. Now, I'm going to push a button, I'm going to get this wheel in motion, and you're going to see how it spins. You're going to notice that this line doesn't move. This line represents the Earth's equator, and this line right here is known as, this point is known as the midheaven, and this represents the Earth's axis. What happens is as we rotate, all the planets rise up over this eastern horizon. They rise up until they hit the midheaven, and then they start to set. Now, once I put the wheel in motion, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about better. So here we go. You see how everything's moving? I took pictures of 15-minute increments. So we'll follow the sun. It's going around. It's coming up. This is at about, we'll freeze frame it right here. This is 4:15 a.m. on October 26th of 2013. The sun has not quite yet risen, and the moon already had, and so had Mars. Now we go forward a little more. Now you see how the sun is right up there at the midheaven around roughly noon. This changes, every day as to what time of year it is. But now is when the sun is going to start setting. So we go down. This is where the sun sets at 5:45 at night, and now that's why it's already dark. So that right there is how the spinning wheel moves. Now, in order to interpret one of these things, you're going to have to go get a book. You're going to need a book that'll teach you the signs, the symbols, and the planets. And I didn't need a book. I got this right here. It taught me the signs and the symbols, and I already knew the planets because I learned those in the 2nd grade. Now, what you do need to get a book for are these lines right here. These are aspects. What these tell the astrologer is how far apart one planet is from another. So you probably can't see the numbers, but that sun right there says the 4th degree. Ah, shoot, I'm going to stop. All right, I get a little scatterbrained every now and then, so there might be some weird little pauses where I gotta regather myself. So, continuing on and reading a natal chart, we know that there are 12 signs of the zodiac, and there are 360 degrees in the circle. Each one of those 12 signs is then broken down into 30 sections called degrees, numbered 0 through 29. Each one of those degrees is then broken down into something called a minute, which is easily confused with minutes on your clock, but really doesn't have anything to do with each other. So there's a correlation between the degrees that the sun is in and the day of the year. So when it comes to further chart structure, you have these things called houses. And you have your first house, they're numbered 1 through 12, and they have their own sign and planet ruler, which the sign ruler correlates with the zodiac. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, all through the Pisces. So this is your first house. This will always be your first house. That point right there will always be your ascendant. It doesn't change on any chart. What will change, obviously, as you've seen in the movement, is everything rotates. So first house, second house, third house, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th. Now onto these little lines. So once you understand that each sign is broken down into a degree, you can interpret things called aspects. Now, what those are is describes the energy that's released between two planets, and each special aspect has each special type of energy. This is where things get kind of complicated, and things people start to get confused, because each one of those little lines is a two-paragraph explanation as to what the type of energies you're going to feel. And house placement and sign can change things. So we're going to start off with the sun and Mars. You see, you have the sun in your third house and Mars is in the first house. If we move a little further in the day, you still have the same aspect. You still have the same sextile aspect, except now the planets are in different houses. So that same energy is directed into a different area of your life. And now you still have the sun and Mars still forming the same aspect, just in a different house. That's a lot to learn. That's a lot of reading to do, and a standard natal birth chart can be anywhere from 20 to 30 pages long, because the planet in the sign has its own meaning, the planet in the house has its own meaning, and the planets in relationship to each other have their own meaning. There are multiple aspects that generally come in distances of 30. Those are usually the major aspects that most astrologers use. So, once again, we will start with the sun, which is right here. And I can't see what degree Scorpio it is. It looks like maybe the third. Oh, shoot, I just forgot. I smoke too much weed, man. Sometimes I forget what I'm talking about. Oh, aspect interpretation. Shit. I gotta take a break. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. So we were discussing aspects and how important they are in your natal chart. Aspects are pretty much the meat and potatoes of the birth chart, and they explain to you a lot of your personality. So I'll briefly explain to you those, and then you're almost ready to go off on your own. So aspects represent how far apart one planet is from another. So notice we will say, let's start, where's a good one right here? We'll start with the moon and Jupiter. The conjunction is the easiest aspect to identify, because they're right aligned each other. That's when two planets are in the exact same degree. Now, the major aspects generally come in increments of 30. So if these planets are in the roughly the 20th degree of Cancer, you would go to the 20th degree of the next signs over. And so you would have what's formed a semi-sextile. That's not as major as the other ones, and once you get up past 60, that's when you start really feeling the energy. So say you're in the 20th degree of Cancer. You know there's 30 degrees in each sign. So you'll go 30, 60, and you'll go to the 20th degree of Virgo right there. There are no planets in aspect right there, and that would be formed a sextile. 60-degree separation is a sextile. You also have a sextile over here in Taurus. So you would go 20th degree Gemini, 20th degree Taurus, and that's where you would have your 60-degree separation. 90-degree separation, 120, 150, and 180 are the major aspects. And each one of those has its own special interpretation. Sign, house placement can definitely affect each aspect, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, say we'll have the moon and Jupiter right there, and then Mercury right up there. They're forming what is called a trine, which is 120-degree separation. That aspect in those signs pointed in that house gives a special type of energy. But if the wheel spins, those planets are still in their special aspect. It's just that energy has shifted into a different house. So you feel those energies in a different part of your personality. Now you're to the part where you understand a lot about this structure. You have a basic idea of what this wheel is, and now you need to go somewhere from that. And now is when you got to go get yourself a book. You got to get yourself a book to teach you your basics. If you don't know the signs and the symbols, you're going to need to know that. You're going to need to get a book on aspect interpretation. And you'll need to get a book on transits. I'm not even going to start to discuss transits until you get a natal chart. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest that y'all go get yourself a copy of this. This is the book I wrote that will take you through step by step what you need to do. It's a little bit about me and how I got into astrology, and a little bit of my path into learning how I do this now, and I show you exactly what you need to do. So once you understand the chart and you know how to tell the difference between the square and sextile and the opposition, the conjunction, you can read this book, which is mostly aspect interpretations. So we'll start with the conjunction. You would find the moon conjunct Jupiter, whatever page it's on, and then you would read that, and that would be a part of your natal birth chart and tell you a personality characteristic. Some are good, and some are not so good. Some of these aspects are what make us angry. Some of these aspects are what gives us our little irritations, and you'll find out once you get into transits what triggers those little irritations. Why is it that when you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off on a Tuesday, it makes you less angry than when somebody had done it the day before? And you're like, maybe there's some weird moon stuff going on. And I really didn't believe it until I read into it, and I explain more in this book. Again, it's called The Circus in My Head, A Madman's Path to Astrology, and it does a great job of teaching you what you need to know if you want to learn how to read your natal birth chart. So the more likes I get, and this is my very first video. I'm not too comfortable making these things, so the more likes and support I get, the more astrology I'll teach you guys. So have a nice day. Bye.